welcome to C3 Films. Today we are doing It Wasn't That Good on The Prestige. Spoiler alert, so if you haven't seen it, go watch it, then come back. And so let's get started.
All right. So so by the way, in case you don't know, I am Chris and this is Cheryl.
Oh my bad. It's
It's
it's been
all
two
good.
weeks.
Take a week off and see you forget too. Um, that being said, yeah. So talk about this film. My history with this film was that first saw this film when my first year of film school, and the people that I went to school with talked the film up a lot, and they talked about how it was like the best film like since Citizen Kane, which by the way I also didn't like that much. I think A Touch of Evil is a much better film in comparison, but you know, controversy aside, the people that I went to school with were talking about how good the movie was, and so when I saw it, they had built up these unfair expectations of the film, and when I first watched it, those expectations were not met, and therefore I ended up actually kind of hating the film more so than the film kind of deserved, but I hated it nonetheless. And that's the reason I suggested it for this show. So now, after having rewatched it, my feelings towards it have subsided a little bit. I don't hate it as much. I still don't think it's like one of the greatest films out there, but I don't know. I'm curious. You've also seen it twice at this point. Like, what's your history? What do you think about it?
I just randomly watched it because, we were just looking for something to watch and it was available on Prime.
Hmm.
But I kind of don't like films that jump around in time. I like, I mean, unless it really needs to. I guess it kind of made it more interesting, but then I'm always like, wait, where in time and space are we? And I mean, it wasn't that bad. Like, it was easy enough to follow. And it was pretty creative and clever, but I also just generally didn't uh enjoy the jumping around that much. It was kind of cool to see like things, come around and like how segments of like the Notebook where like they're reading each other's journal, but they know that they're reading each other's journal cuz they like at some point they acknowledge it. So something like
Hmm.
stuff like that is cool, but then it's also just I don't know. I don't know how I feel about it. I guess I like knowing the cast. It's an all-star cast.
It
I
is.
kind of expected a little bit more from it. It was a little slow for me, kind of
Hmm.
not
Hmm.
not boring, but it was getting there a little bit because of how slow moving it was.
Right. Actually, and this was brought up in the chat as well. I was actually going to bring up, have you seen the movie Memento? Because this seems to be something that Christopher Nolan does. When you look at movies like Memento or this film or even um, Dunkirk, like Nolan seems to like to play around with the idea of non-linear storytelling a lot and to varying degrees of effectiveness. I think it worked really well in Memento. I'm mixed on it here, and I didn't like it at all in Dunkirk. But like, what did you think? Like, have you seen Memento? Have you seen or Dunkirk even?
I haven't really seen either because I fell asleep. It was
During which one? Dunkirk or Memento?
Memento, and I'm pretty sure I've tried to see Dunkirk, but I didn't make it, guys. I didn't make
No.
it.
Well, see, and I think it's funny because then it almost feels like Nolan wanted to make like just wants to do like time like movies that are based in time or movies that mess with time in some kind of way, which is why eventually we got Tenet last year. So I guess it all like has been leading to that movie. But the thing that got me was that when we were in film school, this is something that if we had done as writers, our teachers would have told us that we didn't know what we were doing and what we were talking about, and we needed to rewrite our entire story. But the movie literally does a flashback within a flashback,
Mhm.
and I didn't notice it. Like, I don't think I noticed it as much when I first saw the movie, but watching on a second, like viewing and realizing that, we start at the end of the movie, and then we have the device of the journal to go to the first flashback, but then within that flashback we have to go even further back to when these two people actually first met. And so now we have these three timelines and we're jumping around, and it is easy to lose track if you're not remembering or keeping like basically a pin in a board that says, okay, anything happening with Tesla is at this point in the story. Anything happening when they're friends are at this point in the story. Anything where he's in the prison is at this point in the story. And then, and everything else is in between. And it is easy to lose track.
Yeah. I mean, it was for a movie that does jump around in time a lot, it wasn't that bad in the sense that it wasn't too difficult to keep track of,
Hmm.
but I didn't like it.
Right. And that could be like a personal taste, like personal preference and aesthetic. But what about some of the other aspects of the film? Like, what did you think about the whole rivalry? Because essentially, the movie is a revenge thriller. And use the term thriller loosely, but it is a revenge story. It's about these guys trying to get back at each other, and it all starts because a guy makes a choice that gets another guy's wife killed because the women in this movie are all like plot devices, basically.
And they
But
basically spend their entire lives tormenting each other and like tearing each other down. I do remember the first time I watched it, in the middle of the movie, I was watching it with my boyfriend and I just looked at him and I said, I don't like this movie. They're so mean to each other. So
yeah,
those were the true feelings there.
no, and you could make an argument like, and I think this is where the movie does become more interesting is which okay, and once again we say we gave our spoiler warning, which version of Borden, Christian Bale's character, is the one that's actually doing the bad things. And I feel like we're led to believe like the the one that tied the knot that got the wife killed, the one that showed up and um broke the cage that then killed the dove and went and broke the woman's fingers, like that was the more wild and rambunctious one, not the family man one. But the family man one is probably the one that actually shows up to the funeral and is like, I don't know what knot was tied because he honestly didn't know.
Mhm. Yeah. I also thought that it's funny that they made that a whole like huge thing
Hmm.
because if you watch that scene carefully, when they take her out of the tank, she's still tied up. So
That's what
they could
I
have
said. I
just
was like,
like looked at it and like I guess
and seen the
maybe
knot.
with the chaos and everything they forgot to take a look at it, but someone didn't do their job with the Emmy.
Hmm. Right? Because you can easily tell by looking. But I mean, I think that's one of the points where the movie, one of the major points where the movie asks you to suspend disbelief. That so not knowing what knot was tied when you can clearly pull her out of the tank and then see how her hands are bound because she couldn't slip out of them, so you can see the knot that's tied in that moment. Maybe you don't remember, but other people would have seen it, and at least Michael Caine's character of Cutter would have noticed, especially since they had a whole scene devoted to why you don't use this knot. Um, so the second part that the movie asks you to suspend disbelief is the Tesla science cloning apparatus, cloning machine. And this was the thing that took me out of the movie the first time I watched it. But how did you feel about it?
I don't know why they had to do that. I like you are saying, kind of disappointed about that outcome because, like, why does it have to be a machine by Tesla who doesn't actually, like, according to history, from what I like tried to look up, he never really did anything like that in terms of making devices for magicians.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't know why they had to like, why did they have to change history to make this movie when it doesn't really contribute or have an impact on the story? Because I know other films do play around with history, but that's
Mm-hmm.
like it's fine because it goes with the story. It
Story.
supports the storyline.
Yeah.
This, however, is just kind of like a, oh, let's just throw a famous person in there. Like, it could have just been a regular dude who invented the machine for him and make him more like Dr. Frankenstein or something. And then I'll buy it. Fine, I'll buy that because then we're in a whimsical world.
Right, and that was my issue, and that was part of what took me out of the movie was the fact that the world isn't suggested to be whimsical. It's suggested to be based in our own reality, and therefore it has to abide by the rules within our reality. But the machine is basically magic. Like you can call it science all you want, um, but if there's no real rules for how the machine works that are established, it's basically magic. So, because then you can do whatever you want with it. And yes, there are like loose rules. Like the rule says that it makes a thing and then it makes a copy of that thing, but it doesn't seem to have any problem differentiating between inorganic material and organic material. Size doesn't seem to matter. It can clone a cat or it can clone a human. So there aren't any like limitations to the machine that we are then given. The clones, do they have all the memories? I mean, it seems like they do. Um, and so like that's and so once you start doing that, then it starts to just feel like a Deus Ex Machina. And that's the part of the movie that I didn't like as much because I did like the whole thing of, okay, it's a twin brother. That's based in reality. It does come out of nowhere, but then again, it doesn't because it's set up through the whole movie. Like their interactions and how they come across as two different people, and even the people that interact with them feel like they're different. So that felt more earned to me than the machine, which they also try to like set up and plant, but the machine being able to just do the exact thing that you need it to do, it doesn't feel that strong to me at the end of the day.
Yeah, definitely. They did drop a lot of hints about him being a twin. They drop a lot of hints. So,
Hmm.
and just even watching it that second time, knowing that they are twins, like I can really see and understand the film more being having that outcome at the end because of all the hints that they drop throughout the film. So that,
Yeah.
yeah, like you said, is definitely acceptable. But Tesla just making magic is what?
Yeah, exactly. And I think the idea that they were going for is that they wanted, because Tesla was known for doing kind of fantastical things or things that might seem kind of fantastical. So their idea is that, oh, if Tesla's the one that, if anyone could do it, then Tesla would do it. But it did feel weird because of the fact that we were in a movie, or we felt like we were in a world based within the rules and confines of our own reality. But then the movie just kind of subverts that and says, no, we're not actually. We might as well be in an alternate steampunk version of London that has nothing to do with our own reality. This might as well not even be Tesla at that point.
Mhm. Yeah, it just that whole thing was just lost on me. Um, I think the only other thing that I really have to say or that really bothered me about this film are the accents. Cuz it's like Hugh Jackman has a
Hmm.
American accent, but they're in London, so why can't he just keep his actual accent? And then
He's Australian, right?
uh I'm not
Hugh
sure.
Jackman. I think
But
he's Australian,
it's
but
weird that they made him American and like changed it that way. And then Christian Bale doesn't have that accent either and they made him have that. I don't get why everyone's got to like switch it up and just be consistent.
I didn't notice the accent, so I'll have to defer to you on that. The only accent I paid attention to was Scarlett Johansson's because I knew that she was American, so I was looking to like try to hear how her accent sounded. But she's the
Yeah.
only one I noticed. I didn't really notice the other two.
I mean,
Or
I get it because they are supposed to be in like London or something. So fine,
Mhm.
but then that doesn't explain Hugh Jackman.
Right. And I think that Casually Awkward had a good point that no one just wanted to hang with Bowie. Bowie's like, I will not be in your film unless I can play Nikola Tesla. So make it happen. I don't care if it has anything to do with your story. I don't care if it ruins it. Put me in your movie. And Nolan was just like, yo, Bowie has spoken.
Gotta do what Bowie says.
It was cool seeing him in this movie, though, especially now he's no longer with us. But just looking back and seeing him in that role, I'm not gonna lie, it did bring a smile to my face to see Bowie. So, but yeah, like I don't know. At the end of the day, like I don't think the movie is as bad as I initially felt like it was. Way back when I had to make these arguments in film school, but going back and watching it, I like it more than I did when I first saw it. But the problems I had when I first saw it still do apply. I don't think it's a terrible movie, not by any stretch of the imagination. I think that it's good, but I still don't think it is as great as everybody else was making it out to be.
Right. I didn't have any of that experience, but I just remember watching it the first time and I'm like, oh, it's fine. And then the second time I'm like, yeah, it's fine.
Yeah.
I don't think it wasn't that good, but I don't think it was that bad. Yeah.
Hmm.
It's
Yeah. No.
exactly medium.
Yeah. Exactly. That's exactly it. It has a lot of good things in it. It has some things that aren't so great. So yeah. At the end of the day, we put it on this show for it wasn't that good. Is that true? I mean, it wasn't as good as other people would make you believe, but it also wasn't that bad. So I think what you and Casually Awkward have just said is that it's exactly medium is probably the best way to describe it.
Guess we need to make a new show. Sorry,
No, we're not
guys.
making any more
This
shows.
show is actually called It's Exactly Medium.
No, maybe we should call the show Perfectly Average.
I like exactly medium. It's a good phrase.
But do you have anything else to say on it, or are you pretty much good?
I'm pretty much good. I think that was a good chat. Good chat.
Okay.
Prestige.
So then, what about everybody else out there? What did you guys think about the film? Have you seen it? Do you think that we're crazy? Do you think that this movie was Christopher Nolan's best film, or do you think that it's like one of his weaker ones? Regardless, whatever you thought, why don't you give us a comment below? Let us know. And while you're down there, if you give us a like, share, and subscribe. But even if you don't, though, I have been Chris, and this has been.
Cheryl, and we will see you guys next time.